Hello everyone, welcome back to Tier 2 Talk. Only a couple of days since the last episode, Josh, and I've ended up being more sick than I was the last episode. So you're here to carry the troops, of course, today. We're joined by the Copenhagen Wolves guys, Jackinho and Tapewaare. How are you both doing?
Oh man, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
I'm doing it as well. Thank you a lot for the invite for this Tier 2 talk, and hope we can have some good talks in this
Hey,
episode.
at least we can invite Copenhagen Wolves, unlike other Valve events, Ryan.
Yeah,
It's all
it's
about the
true.
ranking.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. We don't care about the rankings here, man. We don't care at all. Um, I guess starting maybe not so much about the rankings, but about what's happening this year for you guys specifically, right? Copenhagen Wolves, heading into 2025. Josh, you wanna have a quick chat?
Yeah, I actually want to know, and Tateaway, maybe you got some insight on this. What's actually happened with Copenhagen Wolves as an organization? Because from what I was looking at Liquipedia, it seems like an American company picked up the org a couple of years ago. So do you have any insight? Because obviously it's like a household name. It's a name that people are very familiar with, even since the early days of CS:GO.
Yeah. So Jared and Jake, they are both from the USA. They are the owners of Copenhagen Wolves. Both of them had a lot of passion for CS in the past, and they have been following Copenhagen Wolves closely from back in the day when they were in like 2014, 2015. They were playing in the top, and they had like Danish roster, and they like just fell in love with the org, and that's like why they bought the brand from the previous owner, was because they wanted to rebuild Copenhagen Wolves, since they like love the brand and everything. So they want to rebuild Copenhagen Wolves, get Copenhagen Wolves back to tier 1, and like have the organization up in the top, where it was before.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't think we're going to go through most of the roster changes you made last year, because it was actually becoming quite a consistent talking point on our show with how many changes were being made. So I guess I just want to ask you, why was that the case? You look at Copenhagen Wolves out of any other organization in Tier 2, and I think at least last year you were probably #1 for the most changes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I cannot go into details about what happened in each roster move and the reason behind it, because it's like classified and I cannot talk about it. But what I can say is that every player that have left the organization have left on a good note. Like we always like our owners is treating the players with good amount of respect. Everyone is like everyone that have been leaving. If you ask them like how was the club, they would like say the same. They would say it's a family environment in Copenhagen Wolves, and it's a good organization to be in and to play in. And yeah, I understand everyone is like curious about why so many roster changes and all those things, but I can really not like go into special details why people have been kicked and this. But like from me as a captain and end game leader in Copenhagen Wolves, I can say that every move that have been done with a good reason. It's not just because we are having one conflict and then we are saying, okay, we are gonna swap you out because of this. We have tried to work our problems. We have given people chances. We have given help to try to figure out the problems. We have been like doing a lot of work to make it work, but sadly it didn't work out. And like the roster change we did recently with parting ways with Magilla and Ohio, it was it was most of the like we had a bit of different visions on how to play and like some small details. So that was kind of why we had to swap coach, because we wanted like a other perspective in the game. And the thing with Magilla is that he like just didn't like fit our playstyle kinda, so we just didn't have a choice other than like replacing him with someone else. But from what I can say, like about Magilla, he's the nicest guy I ever met, and he's the guy I ever played with that is working the most. Like he's putting down so many hours, and he's like breathing CS, he's living CS. So I don't have anything bad to say about him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is maybe where Jackinho can come into the conversation about joining the team, because I think the last time you have played on an English-speaking team was back playing under Coalesce, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's been a
Uh,
while.
yeah. So maybe just talk about first off how the move came and why. Was it just a lack of offers in the Swedish scene?
I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I think there are some teams right now in Sweden, but obviously it's really hard to also get like a full Swedish team. I mean, I would say like most players they feel really comfortable playing with people from the same country. So I would say like probably most people prefer it. But it was just like for me, it was just about I just wanted to find a project that could be a good home for me and a good fit for me to like where I had some ideas and some focus points that I wanted, and I just needed a team that could help me like tick those boxes kind of. And Copenhagen Wolves was the best option for me. So yeah, I tried for them for some time, and it felt really good. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think the only like other move that happened at the time was bringing in a new coach and then bringing in Belaney, who's basically played in the Polish scene for the majority of his career. Tapewaare, I kind of actually want to ask about Shane because Ryan, you and we would have done quite a lot of Mouths NXT back in the day, and he was obviously one of the founding members. He was kind of the one that got left by the wayside. I think everyone else that he played with kind of got picked up for bigger offers, better opportunities, and his name just sort of started disappearing. So what's he like as a teammate? And I guess he's been here for a very long time, so he's obviously bringing something very beneficial to the team.
Yeah, he's for sure bringing a lot of good things to the team. He's like the funniest guy in the team. He's like the clown almost. Like he's like making good energy. He's a good guy out of the server. You can always like have a good laugh of him because he's always saying something that is funny and like bringing up the mood in the team. And like you said, all the former Mouse NXT players like went to the top, and he was like kind of left behind. And I don't have like 100% answer for that. But I guess like some people evolve quicker than others, and I think he's working hard and putting down what he needs to do, like to get there eventually. But I think maybe he could just be a guy that is using a bit more time to get to that place as the former Mouse NXT players. That's the only like good answer I have for it, because he's a really nice guy and I really like him as a player. And he have also been he was even here before I came to Copenhagen Wolves, and he's like a really nice guy and like calm overall, like very nice guy.
Yeah. Okay. Ryan, the only other player I want to kind of talk about is Andu, because we were talking about him a little bit at the time, right? Being on Gamer Legion, was getting a lot of talk up by Ash, and then all of a sudden he basically goes out of the team. Can you maybe give some insight on how long his loan is, if you know? Because at the time, Ryan and we were talking about it a little bit on Tier 2 Talk, and we were kind of saying, realistically, this is a big drop-off. Like, you're going from an established top-end Tier 1.5, Tier 2 squad, and you're coming all the way to playing on Copenhagen Wolves. So do you want to maybe give us any insight if there is any available?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot say something about the contract length
Okay.
because I don't know it, but I can say like the reason why he like left Gimligen was, or no, he got kicked. So like, I mean, the reason why he want to like take the step down and come to Copenhagen Wolves was mostly because of he wanted to come in and he wanted to play with me as an IGL because I knew him from beforehand. So he wanted to come in Copenhagen Wolves, play with me, and also the roster like we would build with it, and he had a lot of believing in me, so that was kind of the main reason why he wanted to like take the step down and like instantly go for the offer he got from us instead of waiting and maybe he would get something better, you know. So he just wanted to like go straight ahead and get a new team.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add to this, Ryan?
I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Right, well, we can start talking about a couple of the events that you're playing, and I think as we're seeing, week by week, there's more tournaments that are being played, but at the same time, it depends on the team that you are. I would say if you're in the Valve ranking tournaments, especially if you're lower ranked, it's maybe a little bit hard to come by. We can start with the European Pro League, because I think you had to end up forfeiting this tournament, right? You couldn't quite. Was it like a schedule with the tournaments?
Yeah, so we had a problem with the schedule in the tournament. We was on boot camp at So's place
Okay.
in Portugal. So we had to travel the same day, and Ens Academy were not available to play like the next day on the time where the organizer said we could play. So it was very sad because we could have obviously made a deep run in the EPL tournament if we wouldn't need to forfeit. But that's how it is sometimes. Like sometimes we were on boot camp, we had a lot of team building, and we made a lot of good things happen on the boot camp and figure out of many things, and that's very important when you have a new team to like get to know each other in real life. You find out things together, you work hard, you figure out this, and then you just keep going, and it will only make you stronger, you know. So that was like the sad part about the bootcamp, that we had to like forfeit EPL, where I think we could have made a made a good run, but that's how life is. Sometimes you have to sacrifice some things to make things better, you know?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to mainly ask about this one because of Eklot. Now, we had Eklot on the show literally 2 days ago, Ryan, and they're a team that are qualified to the Shanghai RMR, pretty close to qualifying to the major. They've made a couple of changes, and you guys get owned by them. So I just wanted to get your perspective on what you think this new Eklot looks like in comparison to the old one.
I mean, I definitely think they have the potential, and they like swapped two players, like you said, and I think they will get up on the level where they were before, and maybe they can go higher even, because now they have like a same language speaking team, or how do you say it? Like you have same nationality.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna benefit them a lot. And when we played versus them, it's like always about the small margins in CS. Yes, we got 2-0, but it was many rounds there could have went our way, and maybe we could have got one map. So I wouldn't like say we got like totally destroyed, but
Okay.
we also like working on our problems. Yes, a young RGL. I'm trying to find my structure. I'm trying to build up on around this works. Like it's many things for me to work on, you know, as a captain when I'm only 20 years old, so I have a lot to learn from like older captains and everything. So I think we will get there after some time. But right now I'm kind of struggling a bit as an in-game leader because I have to like make my structure. I have to figure out many things around how I'm gonna call, and like it's many things, you know. And all these small details are how you're gonna lose games in CS:GO and how you're gonna win. So it's like many things around that.
Yeah, and just quickly, Jackinho, I wanted to ask because when we had the Eklot guys on, we were sort of like posing them these unranked events, these European Pro Leagues, United 21s, are they worth playing? Was kind of like our questions to them, and they were saying, well, it's great, we can get officials under our belt, you know, test the map pool, play against decent caliber. Are you guys the same? Do you look at these unranked events and say we want to play as many as possible?
I mean, yeah, of course, like when you're like a tier 2 or tier 3 team, I mean, you really want to play a lot because when you're practicing, like you can practice, you can have practice and you can practice some theory, some setups, but in reality, when it comes to matches, it's like a completely different tempo. So like you always want to play a lot of matches. That's how you're gonna improve a lot. And I mean, like, of course, it would be preferable if there was like if these types of tournaments were also ranked and could give you ranking points. I would say like any team that's participating in these tournaments would probably want it that way. But yeah, like if you're a team and you want to improve and you want to climb the ranks, then you have to play a lot, you have to grind a lot, you have to practice a lot, and so it's like it's kind of hard to also say no to some of these tournaments. I think if you like, you can go both ways. You can practice too much and you can play too many matches. But ideally, you want to have a nice balance where you're constantly playing matches and practicing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I don't know if you want to maybe start talking about this whole VRS like system, because I kid you not, the last couple of days on Twitter, I am just seeing so many posts from players, from Endpoint closing up their doors. I actually think it's a lot more concerning than what maybe at least the tier 1 teams and talent and everyone's saying it is. Everyone from the tier 1 level seems like they're loving it, right? Because as you should, if you keep within the top 16, you keep going to events. But now that like I'm actually seeing it in motion, this looks dire for tier 2 and tier 3.
Yeah, I think a couple of people know who I'm on about. I saw a really interesting tweet. I'll have to dig it up and just so I can say it word for word.
Sure.
But it kind of summarizes exactly how I felt about the whole situation. It was Miss Katie that tweeted it. Obviously, Josh, like a local UK land goer.
Yeah.
And she said people complain when smaller teams made it to the major because it was boring, and now actually it is boring because we're watching the same teams and the same players in every event. Like that's the gist of the tweet. And to be honest, I couldn't agree more. It was a case of, well, we had all of this complaining, and the whole reason behind Valve making this change was for the fact that, you know, like the ESL agreement and the partnerships for Pro
the
League.
Louvre agreement and partners.
You've got the Blast one for all of the Blast events. You know, you've got to play a certain amount, X amount of events a year under the Blast name, and all of these things. And then, you know, like you look, for example, for you guys in Copenhagen Walls, and I think any team that sort of sits outside maybe the top 30 in Europe, right? And it's like, you want to play events to get ranking points, but there's no availability for it because if there's CCTs or anything like that, the invites sort of cascade down. So by the time you're at like number 40, number 50, you know, all of the slots are already taken in these events because the bigger fish get invited first. So actually, if you're heading into 2025 and your team sits well outside sort of a top 40 position, you just get fucked by Valve, really, because you just can't play these events. And obviously, as teams that want to get there, you want nothing more than to play these ranked events. But when they are ranked, you know, teams are trying to fill up their calendars as much as possible, especially those that aren't maybe guaranteed tier 1 events immediately. So you just struggle completely. And it's, you know, it is quite literally, as you said, Josh, like for the tier 1 teams, you're laughing because it just benefits them.
Yeah,
they're going to get all the
does.
points from the majors, from your Colognes, your Catos, your Blasts, whatever, right? You're going to get all the points. You're going to sit at the top. But for all the teams that sit on the edge and slightly below, you know, maybe there's one time where you push just into the rankings to get an invite, but as soon as you go out of that tournament and every team above you places better, you're back down. You don't get any invites. It's incredible. I think how bad this now looks, and maybe you guys can give a bit of insight as well, like maybe some honest thoughts into this, because you know, in 2024, open circuit basically, anyone can get invited to anything. You know, you guys could play a CCT play-in and get HLTV points there, and obviously TOs look that way to invite, and now you kind of just get fucked over because Valve is pretty stubborn about how many events are sort of open to open qualies, and ultimately you guys aren't top 20, top 30, so you don't get the invite straight up.
Yeah, I was actually thinking a lot about this today, and I was talking a lot about it with some different people. Like I don't know all the exact like criteria and rules on top of my head, but like from what I managed to get to and what conclusion I came to is that like I think that like the way Valve wants to do it is a step in the right direction, but there's a lot of more steps that needs to be like adjusted. I can't tell you exactly what, but like for example, like right now it's really hard to get the VRS points for the ranking. So that therefore we're seeing constantly the same teams getting invited. But I think the problem right now is that there's just not enough ranked events, because like the more ranked events we would have, the more teams would have to pick. And for example, if I remember correctly, like if you, let's say you're doing a tier 2 ranked event, then the invites will start from a lower point. So therefore, if we have a lot of tier 2 events, then I mean, we will eventually just have a lot more open qualifiers. You will have a lot more teams declining and picking and choosing what kind of tournament they want to play, which leaves more spot for the ones under. So I think the conclusion I came to is just that right now, I don't know if Valve needs to like adjust or change the criteria for having a ranked event. I don't know if they need to work with the tournament organizers more or whatever steps need to be taken. But I just think like this system that we have right now, if we can just like get 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 times as many ranked events as we have right now, then it's going to be really good, because that means like a lot of open qualifiers. Like let's say Copenhagen Wolves, we managed to place like a top 60 or top 70 on the Valve ranking. Okay, maybe then we won't be playing all the open qualifiers because we already have so many tournaments, so we have to practice and like decide what tournaments we're going to play. That makes it easier for new teams to play open qualifiers. As soon as they get into one tournament, they can get their Valve ranking points. They can start getting invites. So I think in general, we just need to like, I don't know if it's the tournament organizers that have to like really work hard to manage to become a ranked event, or if Valve have to meet them halfway or whatever. But I think if we just get more ranked events, I think this system will be a lot better than at least what it was before.
Yeah, I agree that the system will be a lot better than it was before. Like the only concern I have is like whenever you play open qualifiers, like it was before as well, a big problem. Like we are meeting people that are cheating, using radar, whatever,
Yeah.
and then will be a huge problem, you know, because every team that are like, let's say tier 3/tier 4, they're gonna constantly play only open qualifiers and practice, and then they have to meet cheaters every fucking time they are like trying to get into a tournament, and it will be like they're just standing there and banging their head in the wall, like they cannot get anywhere. So I agree with everything you said, Jack, and it's very good and a step in the correct direction. But they also have to figure out something that can help get rid of the cheaters. Like it will always be some kind of cheater, but they have to do some good things to minimize it, like playing on face it anti-cheat or whatever. Like what is the best for for us to like get the least cheating around open qualifiers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And also to add to that point, also like I think there's always gonna be that problem. But I think it will also be a lot less. Like if the open qualifier is for a tournament with like a pretty small prize pool and it's not even on HLTV, then maybe it won't attract as many cheaters as the major qualifier. You know, like
True.
so I think
Yep.
in a way, like the more events we have, like you will always have that problem probably until someone comes up with a really good idea how to stop cheating from online games. You know, but I think it's like if you just get really I think just more ranked events in general, and like also building. I don't know whose responsibility is. I guess it's everyone that like having smaller tournaments that can be ranked. That like will just just be teams that are like fully new teams or people coming from the beginning. Maybe not as big prize pools. Maybe not even HLTV events, but you can still get Valve ranking points.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it takes responsibility on the TOs, and we've seen that with Compass, we've seen it with CCT, we've seen it with Sky Esports, fucking up and making their events unranked. They all need to get their shit together to make sure they are. But then I think as well, it comes down to guys like United 21, guys like European Pro League. We don't know them, Ryan, because we know we're not involved with those companies. But is it perhaps them just being like, fuck it, like we don't want to be involved in like all this extra paperwork and the invites and everything to make it Valve sanctioned and ranked and what have you? I think if nothing changes, right, like this could just be like the end of tier 2 and tier 3 by the end of the year. Like if nothing's actually changing from where we are right now, and that's looking at it on a really negative standpoint. I'm sure there will be a lot of changes. I'm sure there'll be a lot more tournament operators and tournaments to follow, but this is already 2 months into the year or going into February, and we've realized quickly that it's fucked, and that it needs changes. So it's down to Valve, it's down to the TOs to put their foot down. I know Bevy in the UK scene put out a tweet. We now have 0 orgs investing in UK teams in CS now. And, you know, Endpoint, we can talk about that a little bit later on. The whole fact of that is, well, look at Inner Circle that's just brought a new team. Look at Sangul that's just brought a new team. Being outside of like a close ranking perspective and being like a middle of the pack, low end tier 2 to tier 3 squad is going to be rough this year.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of thinking the only way, you know, maybe an organization like yourself or like other smaller organizations, the only way they start making money and survive is if they just start farming players like Endpoint, where they build up a squad, they sell a player to tier 1 and they just keep going. Is that the only way? Like, is that, if you're not playing in the big tournaments, if you're not getting the prize pool, well, how the fuck are you going to survive? I don't know. I don't really know what the next few months is going to look like. We need changes quickly in tier 2 and tier 3.
Yeah, we do for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said. It's gonna be the end of tier 2 and tier 3 if nothing happens. But hopefully they will like listen to the players like they usually do and
Yeah.
listen and just make the best out of it. And like you said, United 21 and EPL, like they have to get their shit together. They have to like try to work with Valve and figure out a solution of how they can get into the Valve ranking, because it's good tournaments. Like usually there's not so many problems about like they're always like good admins and everything. So I think they could have a good chance of making it. But maybe, as you said, maybe it's like paperwork or something we don't know about. But hopefully they will manage, and then we will have more ranked tournaments.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just wondering, is even advanced? I mean, I don't even know if that is like, because you've got like the ESEA league points. I know they've changed the
Yeah.
system a little bit into ECL. Maybe we could start talking about that now, Ryan, because Copenhagen Wolves are playing in ECL, but they've now got like the relegations with the league points, and I don't think you can qualify straight away from advanced like you used to. They've changed the whole pathway. But what do you guys think about this tournament? Because obviously it seems like it changes format every single season. It seems like we're looking at a round robin to a group stage. How have you thought your matches have gone so far?
I think they've been going okay. I mean, result-wise, not necessarily what we wanted, but I mean, like I think it's the best opponents we can face. So it's like the best practice also, and they can really expose like what points we need to focus on and work on. I would say like, especially being a international team, and now we've been together for soon almost a month. So it's like the expectations. I mean, everyone wants to win, but like the expectations are used to like really get a lot of experience and find out what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are and what we need to spend time on. So I mean, so far I would say we got a lot from the games, even though we haven't gotten quite the results we were hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, Josh, looking at the groups quickly here, I don't know about you, but I think your group is probably the hardest one, right? Like in terms of teams, you got like the new Monty
Yeah.
side, Jame back on Paravision, Sinners obviously having lost Oscar but still looking incredibly strong. Um, it's a tough group, right? And I think this is really interesting, like at a more like global level, what happens, because I did see this event is Valve ranked at tier 2, right? Like it is pretty clear cut. You know, this is an event that will contribute to your rankings, but you got to think like as you were saying, sure, in terms of right now there isn't much, but if this is the only event people were getting points from outside of your CCTs and whatever, like if you're a player that isn't in a team or you've just formed a team, like ironically, the best way of getting points right now probably is either to go on a hero run in a quali or to grind your way through Open, Inters, Main, Advanced, and then play relegation to get into ECL, of which, you know, you might only score a couple of points because it's tier 2,
True.
and if you bomb
Yeah.
out in the group stage, you technically, you know, because of the head-to-heads and stuff, you won't get many points, if any at all. So, yeah, it's...
The good thing for us though in this ESL is that since we don't have a high rank on the Valve ranking, and like for example, like you said, our groups have some pretty good teams. So like if we manage to like beat some of these teams, then we can get a lot of points from that because we are ranked very lowly. And if we lose those games, we don't risk losing a lot of Valve points. So in that way, that us being in ESL is really good for us. Yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, it's a win-win for us, either though if we lose or win. But like talking from a tactical point, like as an in-game leader, like we had, like we have gotten 2-0 versus Monte and versus Paravision. But what I can say from that is that we had two very close maps where we should have won it. We kind of lost to ourselves on versus Monte, for example. We played Nuke and we lost to ourselves, I would say. Of course, we lost the game, so yeah. And then we had the Paravision game where we played good on our map pick, and then we're coming on those two, and then we just got smacked like 13-3 or something. And that's like that's what like Jack said, is that it's kind of good for us because we're getting a reality check. We're getting slapped in the face, and okay, now we know we need to work on this because they have punished us on this,
Yeah.
and then we are like making a lot of progress from these games. So it's very, very good for us as a new team to like play versus these opponents, and I'm kind of happy we got in this group B because it's like very reality check, and we like getting fast experience from it.
Yeah, and used to say also that like if we imagine that like we're gonna get a lot more ranked events and like this system is gonna improve a lot like in the next few months, then it could actually be a really like lucky chance for us because we get to play a lot of matches where we might not get the results, but we're getting a lot of practice in. So like let's say some of these tournaments that we're getting invited to start being a ranked event, then all of a sudden we already get a few months of practice in these officials, and now we can produce some better results because of it. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens with this VRS.
Yeah, I actually think in a way, Ryan, making this tournament VRS has kind of saved ECL. Because I've felt in the last few seasons, ECL's just been bullshit, hasn't it? It's been like so many teams, so many matches, and then one team goes to Pro League. Like, I feel as if for the most part, a lot of teams were playing this just for the sake of playing. Like, there wasn't really
Yeah.
much. Like, unless you were like a Forza or a Sinners or like one of those proper top end tier 2 teams, you were no way going to make Pro League. Like, there was never an upsetting team that could go on to win the entire thing. Whereas now, especially if you're a lower ranked team, if you're a GG How, if you're maybe like a Game Agent, an Arc Red, a Rush B, like one of the teams at like 60, 70, 80 in Europe, you're probably looking at ECL now saying, mate, it's proper worth playing. Like, this is actually really beneficial to how we can get points and how we can boost ourselves up the rankings quickly.
Yeah, for sure. It's like this is our like number one priority right now, to play Challenger. And like you said, it have changed a lot, because before it was like if a tier 1 team like or top tier 2 got down from like Pro League, and then they coming back to like play Challenger, it was like, yeah, we don't care about Challenger, you know, like you said.
Yeah.
And now everyone is like, okay, now it's like real time. This is our only way to like get our way up from this. and I think it's a good thing. Like we see the world ranking is working, and this is one of the good things like out from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to just ask you, Ryan, quickly. Is there any teams like out of all the groups that kind of caught your eye recently, just like in general? I actually think the Fireflux team, I know we were memeing on them a little bit in the past. They've
Yeah.
actually been kind of doing all right recently. They've been getting some pretty good wins.
I can't say I've been too keen on the pro leagues in the Challenger League. Sorry. I think heading into this season, I was really interested to see how Navi Junior were doing because obviously we had them on the show a little while ago, and it felt like for
Yeah,
me at
that's right.
least, those guys were winning a lot. They were shooting heads. You know, they had like a really good blend of these young guns that actually played decent CS, not just in terms of holding mouse one, but actually sort of at a sort of a way of thinking about the game as well, right? Like they actually had a pretty high level of structure. So I don't know. I think, as you say, I'm more keen to see. Usually, at least, it was always, oh, we're more keen to see how this goes, and you can see it still takes the absolute piss here because we've got like you guys have played what 3 games, and it's like you go top 4, and then you play through the group stage or whatever. Then you got the playoffs. It's like you could. You're just withering away playing ESL Challenger League. But what I will say is, I think this is a really interesting glimpse into how competitive Tier 2 Counter-Strike will be because this is the only way of getting points right now, right? Like,
Yep.
you see how cutthroat everything is, how much people want to win, even down to like game results as well, right? Like winning 2-0 gives you more points than winning a 2-1 as far as I know. So even down to like trying on every single map, refining your map pool. Like if this was the whole of Tier 2 CS, if all the events were ranked and we could see teams sort of come into the space like this, it does excite me because in 6 months from now when everything kind of settled down and teams sort of to slot into more of a reasonable place with their level, things like this are going to be so much more interesting. And as you say, I think, does it really matter how much money they're throwing at teams right now? No. The Pro League slot, sure, nice for some, but to most, the thing that they care about most is just this.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
that is that's what's so interesting to me about this season of Challenger League.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope also like in the future that we can get like more of these like tier 2 lands, because like a few years ago, like before COVID, we had
Yeah,
a lot
sure.
of like good tier 2 lands. So like imagine ESL Challenger, instead of having it like a online tournament, you could have like a really proper like ranked LAN event, and it would actually like be really fun for our players, and like I think it would bring a lot of viewers because there's always like a lot of like some like stick up teams who are like really promising, like and then like talking about the players, like there's so many like interesting tier 2 players that people want to see. So like I really hope we can get like some nice like tier 2 lands in the near future.
Well, I think we're already starting to see a couple. There's like a Nordic LAN that's happening in a few months' time, which has got pathways through Norwegian quals, Swedish quals, Finnish quals. I think it's 100K. I think that's about May time, roughly. Obviously, Sky Esports have got their circuit. I can imagine that the majority of Tier 1 teams are going to decline the invites there, and it will be majority of Tier 2. And I think same for Star Ladder as well. I think Star Ladder, just as how they were in the past, they were always sort of like trying to make it the more up and coming team. So I think Blast and ESL and PGL for the most part, they'll just stick with the Tier 1. You've already seen at Cluj-Napoca a lot of Tier 1 teams decline. So I think as time goes on, we'll probably see that we get more of these, I say, quote unquote Tier 1 lands with Tier 2 teams. We just got to wait for them to come around.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
CCT?
Yes, next event to talk about. Obviously, we were talking about how the fact that, you guys are going to have to slog it through just because of Valve rankings, invites eventually trickle down, but you have to start from a play-ins. And it's interesting to me, actually, that obviously, I guess for time's sake, that CCT kind of try and throw in a different format for these. They use GSL rather than what they usually use, which is Swiss. But even then, you look at this and it's like only 4 teams make the main event and the rest are made up of invites, right? Of which, there's a wildcard invite, which we all know, complete and utter horseshit because, NIP playing with Jax right now to get the points or whatever. And then the rest of it, it's still all very closed circuit. Whereas CCT, if I'm not mistaken, in 2024 had open qualifiers for these things, right? There was one for every event. I think 2, 3, maybe even 4
I think there
teams
were 4,
qualified,
I think it was,
like
yeah.
through to the main event, and now it's all locked out to VRS. And fair play. Obviously,
Some of the teams here, though, Ryan, are like insane. Like, if we're just thinking 6 months ago, would we expect Z10, Aurora, OG to be in the closed qualifier? OG would be like a top 8 invite,
yeah,
right? Like Zero Tenacity, Main Swiss invite, Aurora, maybe between Main Swiss and playoffs, depending on how their run of form is. But just see some of these teams playing in closed qualifier is mental.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, even NIP, like, they're a wild card invite and they couldn't get out of the group. Like, it's going to be tough for some of them. I know Snappy's been extremely vocal on Twitter, and I think he should be, right? Like, I think on paper, that's a squad that should be aiming towards the top of Tier 2, but if they don't have the Valve points, then they can't really prove it. So what? They're just going to have to keep being a wild card invite to CCT? It could be very tough for some of those kind of teams.
Yeah, obviously your group stage yet to start, but yeah, I don't know. I think for me at least, like you look at the level, as you say, Josh, like across the board for some of these closed quals and whatever, it's ridiculous.
It's good, man. Like, these are all main Swiss teams right here.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a close qual, but you look at this and it's like, actually, do you know what? This could be like contenders, main Swiss. Even as you say, some of these teams probably in 2024 kind of turn your nose up at you if you offer them a main Swiss rather than a playoff invite, right? Like,
definitely. Yeah.
it is pretty insane. I guess for you guys, right? Obviously, it's a ranked event, a tier 2 qualifier. Is this sort of the same level? Same mentality where it's as ESL Challenger, where you guys are just thinking, do you know what, like, we need to come into this event, every win here is positive, it gives us more points, it moves us up in the rankings? Or are you treating this any differently? Are you thinking maybe more about the bigger picture, or what's up with this event?
With CCT, it's like, this is like where we're going into, and we're thinking, okay, we are a team, like here, we can get out of our group. Last time we didn't even make it out of the group, but I think we have gained some huge steps in the team from the bootcamp we were on and everything. So I think now it's a realistic goal to, like, let's say we should get out of our group now and hopefully get to the group stage, or like, I mean the Swiss, and then from there we can like get many points, and then it will be like, it's kind of the same focus as Challenger. Like, we're going into it and we're doing everything for winning, and we are trying our best to like get out of the group to play versus those high ranked team. So let's say if we lose, it's not a big down. We can only take it as experience, and if we win, we can gain a lot of VAL points.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the teams in your group, because I think Apology, I mean, they're just dogs, so I don't really rate them at all. Favbet, they've been around for a little while. I think they play some decent CS. I think at times they can actually push quite deep in some tournaments, like main Swiss is like early round of playoffs. That's like Bondic and the guys over there. And then Alaska, obviously close to home. They're going to be at Epic in a couple of weeks, but I don't see them making many main Swisses. I think they might make the odd one here or there, but they'll constantly be like a closed qualifier team. So do you look at Favbet and you guys as the top teams in the group?
I mean, I think Apogee have like been doing pretty decent. I think they are like 66 in the world or something. So I think they are like at the moment the highest ranked team in our group. But I think Favbet and Apogee is like the biggest threat, and
Okay.
Alaska is like a team we should beat, I would say. And I mean, if we don't beat them, I'm gonna be disappointed. Like, we have Favbet and Apogee, we should be able to beat as well. But like, those are a bit tougher opponents, I would say.
Yeah. All right.
I was going to say, Josh, honestly, I rate Apogee maybe a bit more than you.
Yeah?
I remember watching them. I think it was in like a Compass event or something. And
Okay,
they really surprised me. No, they really surprised me. But
they are shooting hard.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I remember watching them on Nuke, and I thought, like, wow, these guys actually do hit hard.
Yeah, they shoot hard.
But there you have it, right? I think one more event to talk about, Josh, and obviously the biggest fish in the pond is the European qualies for Blast. It's the Relog, the Rest Showdown. And obviously, got to give props to them because they held qualifiers and a fair few of them, right? Like, compared to maybe sort of other teams or other TOs at this level, it's nice of them that they actually put a quali together. Anything in particular that you wanted to talk about in this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first one is what the fuck's going on with Imperial Female and pulling out of tournaments? This is now back-to-back tournaments online that they've just redrew on the day. I don't know how much notice they gave towards Blast or towards Relog on this. But this is bullshit, man. Like, you got teams like Copenhagen Wolves that are, like, hungry, right, to get in these Valve tournaments, and you're being invited on the Valve ranking, and then you just pull out, so then another team can't take your place, and you just, what, there's 3 teams in a group? That's just fucking, that's not on. Like, I don't know why that's been happening with them. I don't know if it's got to do with the Cluj spot at the LAN. Maybe that's something. And then like another one, we were obviously talking about how Imperial Female did really well in the rankings, and I think they've proved that at Katowice, and they showed it at the bounty that they can hang. The Eco Warriors, which is Giuliano's team, was also in the ranking here, and I kind of looked at it yesterday, and I thought, man, they're gonna get farmed. Like they're in a tough group. And that was the case. I mean, they got, what, 5 rounds against 500 and then 6 rounds against Saw. So I think you're going to start seeing the ranking change a little bit over the next couple of months. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think realistically, maybe Paravision looked like one of the best teams at the moment to come out of the group stage. I also thought BetBoom, I was surprised that they lost out to Passion today. And then like BC Game, I think we were talking about them yesterday. They've made some new changes and just basically the bleed roster now.
Yeah, it is literally that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has the right to decide what tournaments they want to accept or not, but like it's not that nice if some teams are missing out a chance to play in a tournament, and I think. But I don't know if it's necessarily on Imperial or the organizers, because we don't know like what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, there should be some. I mean, there must be some rules that says like, okay, you have this long to accept or decline, and you can't just like pull out last second.
Yeah.
If you can't find a replacement, you know.
I think what would be interesting, Josh, is when the rankings get recalculated in a couple of weeks or so, is whether these games are counted as played but as a forfeit, or if they're not counted by Valve. Because obviously,
well, I read something, and I'm not 100% on this, but if you forfeit games, it doesn't change your ranking. So Messioso was basically saying, like in Cato, when like as an example, with like the Gamer Legion just before the cutoff, and they had to go and play Spirit, you just forfeit that game, and then you don't lose points. And it's like, well, that's a fucking big loophole, especially if you're playing online in Tier 2, where if you know when the cutoff date is, you just go, fuck it, that team's too good for us, we're just not going to play them, and then you don't lose points. Like, how the fuck's that a thing?
Okay, well, in which case, then obviously that is very flawed, because I think as much as, it might not be their fault, it might not be the organisation's fault, it might literally just be clash in the schedule because of the Cluj event or whatever. If they don't get penalised for this, then it's clearly a big hole in the system. Because as you say, Josh, you come against a team that you think is, by and large better than you. Why would you risk your rankings? Especially when, we're talking to you guys and, we're all in agreement that points to get right now is so sparse that, all the events, all the points are worn really, really thin, and there's really little opportunity to go up. It's like, well, why would you go down if you can just forfeit every game you don't want to play and you stay up? Right, like you just exist in the same level, and sure, teams will eventually overtake you, but it's sink or swim. You could find yourself in a few more events or whatever, right? So yeah,
I think
pretty
like in any sport, like of course if there's some scheduling issues and they can't play the tournament, then sure. But I mean, in any sport, like you wouldn't be able to go into a football game and say we're gonna forfeit this game. Like
Yeah, no.
you can't forfeit games. You shouldn't be allowed to forfeit any game in any tournament. If you can't play and you can't participate in a tournament, it's one thing, but you should never be allowed to forfeit any game.
Yeah, and perhaps that's maybe where Valve put their foot down and say if that is the case, maybe there is a penalty in points to stop teams potentially using that loophole. I wanted to talk about the open quals just a little bit here because obviously it's all a bit of a pathway. Western Europe saw a little bit of a UK derby, actually, Ryan, in the final. They had like Smooya's team with Thomas going up against, I say UK derby, not really, just sort of like the new Cypher team up against the Smooya team there. And then in East Europe, 500 came out on top. A little bit surprised. The new Sangle team went out really early. Monty went out quite early as well. They had a little bit of a tough time there. The one that sort of caught the eye the most was probably the Nordic Open, which NIP was able to win, because you have Johnny Speeds making top 4, 9 being in that position. As well. The new wildcard team, I think we'll talk about them a little bit later on. They've got like a European Academy squad with their North American team that they're repping at the moment. And then B&E, they made the final, Ryan, of the Adric, the one. But unfortunately, they got farmed by Paravision, so it wasn't any surprise there. Went on a little bit of a deep run, but went out early.
Fair enough. Do we want to move on, Josh, to our roster changes, maybe?
Yeah, we can do. I think you can start the first one talking about Endpoint. We were talking about them literally on the show yesterday. We closed down the show. First thing I did was open up Twitter and I saw it and I thought, shit, man, this is like breaking news for what was a very large and a mainstay name in Tier 2 for the better part of 5+ years, I want to say.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, like the whole point of Endpoint, at least the speculation, is that they were a team that were obviously trying to play and win games, Josh, at a Tier 2 level. But you look at some of the names that they were able to sort of push out of their pipeline, right? Like you had Flames, Boros, just to name a few. Heavy God was there as well, right? Obviously, Nerds, yeah. Like so many names they pushed out of that home that went on to do good and great things. And I think basically the whole reason behind them shutting down operations is exactly what we've talked about here, and that is that there is little to no opportunity for new teams or even established Tier 2 teams but fall down sort of outside the rankings of where you get invites to CCT and stuff. It's just not viable. You're pumping out shit tons of money a month on player contracts, coaches, boot camp facilities, all of this stuff, right? Like, it's not cheap. And then at the end of it all, because CCT closed quali has a wild card and no open qualies, you can't qualify for these events that push you higher up the ranking. And inadvertently, it's just a circle of fuckery. And ultimately, Endpoint, as we know, very financially smart, go, unfortunately, this is not worth our money or our time to do, because you just get nowhere at this point. So they drop their whole team. It's interesting in the tweet, obviously they said that this is not a goodbye, they're just putting operations
like
on
pause,
hold,
isn't it?
So they know that they want to come back to CS, but
sure.
it's honestly, they could not underline in a thicker pen how poor the Valve ranking system is right now for teams that are trying to grind their way through and don't have the luxury of being able to play one of few closed events that are ranked.
Yeah, and this might be harsh, Ryan, but if they had a good team, they wouldn't be breaking apart, would they? It's only because they've had a shit team.
Yeah.
And I think it makes a lot of sense. You leave, you come back 6 months later when we're all sort of saying, oh, well, everyone needs to get their shit together. Well, by the time you go past like the summer break and all the TOs are now ranked and all of the European Pro Leagues and United 21s, everyone's back, then you go and bring in a new roster in. I think to financially fund that Endpoint roster this year, mate, there's no points. I think it's a good decision to drop that team. I want to ask you, Tapewaare, do you see any of those players getting picked up? I think both Ryan and I were looking down on them saying, there's not really much there. I think it could be tough. Maybe Max has got the best chance of trying to be an in-game leader, but I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, from what I think is that they had a very good team, and they, like you guys said, they have made a lot of players. They have made to push out Nerds. They have made to push out many big names from Endpoint. So I think, like you said, like Mighty Max's RGL probably have a good chance to get out, because he have produced some good names and he have helped some good players to get to the next level, you know. So I think Mighty Max as an RGL can be good. Asuvu, like, he haven't been on his best like the recent time, but he still have, I can see now we have 1.6 rating, so he's still not like too terrible. He is like a star player you could bring in, and I think he could like work in a good system. And then you look at Siot, and he came from Sprout, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
yep.
Sprout. And he's like 18 years old, and I think he also have a huge potential. So I don't think it's like, I think they have like 2-3 players where they could have potential and get like up. So I don't think like the whole roster is like written away instantly.
Okay. I mean, I thought that Surreal looked really good at the start of CS2, right? But I think there was quite a big drop off from that point onwards. I'm wondering for him, it could be really tough, I think, for him to find an offer. Like, you look at some of the younger guys on the team, maybe. I think there's a little bit going for them. Do you just hang up the mouse if no offer comes? I mean, we're talking about how difficult it is to start a brand new team. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
we'll have to keep eyes for the next
I
few
was-
months to see what offers, if any, are coming at all.
I was gonna say, I think unfortunately we obviously heard it from the Eclock guys last video, but the meta within Counter Strike right now is usually that you pick up a young gun and you want to like pick someone out of the Face It lobby that's playing, you know, in what would be like the FPLC quali, or you know is currently sitting in Challenger or just outside of it. Like the instinct for teams now is to try and scout a really young upcoming talent, and then you kind of put them on a set of weights against Surreal, and it's like, unfortunately, I just see a lot of people probably picking a more gambly option on some young gun that is bright and grindy and happy to get on with it, right? Rather than the likes of Surreal, or even Crucial in that position, right? It's like the young
Definitely.
Orpas have,
Yep.
have proven so much over the last few years that I don't know. As you said, I don't think many people come knocking. I think maybe Azu and the likes of Sejot, just because they're young and impressionable, and you can definitely mold them into a system that can work. Mighty Max, I tell you what, I'd be really interested if Max takes up a coaching role, because you've got to think, you know, he's not just going to sit there and he does nothing when these new players come in. You know, you think of like the Mouse NXT days and things like that. Max is probably one of those people that is like your Ashes of the world in the sense that he knows how to scout good talent. He knows what to do with the talent to make them good. I'm wondering if maybe it's a new walk of life for Max in Counter Strike. But yeah, I it's unfortunate, but I don't see much happening from there.
Yeah, I
Yep.
actually really hope that both Max and Surreal get a bit of fire under their belly. I mean, they've been under endpoint for the last 5 years. Did they
Yeah.
maybe just get a bit too comfortable? You know, you've been with the same org, you're living up in Sheffield, you're getting a paycheck every single week, every single month. Is it just now? Shit, we don't have that anymore. We got to step up. We've got to make sure that we find
Yeah.
a new home. We just spoke about BC Game basically being ex-Bleed. As we were doing the show, we didn't see it, but when the show ended, we did. Kakanito being benched with Lecro and bringing in Nexa and Cypher to IGL. Now, Ryan, I might start with you. We kept getting signs that Nexa doesn't want to IGL. He was out there on Bleed to help out, to be an anchor, which was questionable at the time. Hampus goes, so he has to pick up in-game leadership. And now he's picked up another in-game leadership role.
Yeah.
What is going on?
I don't
How
know.
do you say I don't want to be an IGL, but then keep accepting IGL roles?
I don't know. Maybe nothing's on the table, and it's like, do you know what? Fuck it, for the sake of, you know, having a
Somewhere.
paycheck at the end of the month. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
Like you go back. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's ironically, I messaged Cypher when I saw the announcement come out, and I was just like, what do you think of the system? Because obviously this was post last show, and I was like, you know, for you guys, it's still a bit of a grind, and literally he said to me, he's like, we're not worried because we take the core points from Bleed. So Bleed were top 40. They take most of the points from Bleed, obviously as players and being a core. I guess this kind of proves the point that we made last episode as well, is that if you make enough changes and you bring in a core of players that were on a team that already existed in top 40, top 30, you can just take those points and run. You can still exist in the top echelons of CS and the Valve rankings. So yeah, I don't know. I think Nexa making the change, clueless. I think it's a very, very, very silly move again. But as
Okay.
I said,
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, if he's got nothing else, and you know it's like BC Game being like, you know, knocking on the door, hello, would you like to IGL for us or be unemployed for another couple of months? You know, maybe it just push comes to shove. And obviously Cypher getting picked up. Kai, I think we learnt at the Paris major can play very well. So I don't think he's ever a bad pickup in any tier 2 team, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, look, they did well in the open quali of the Blast event, right?
Yeah.
So time will tell. But maybe it's fraud watch again for Nexa. Maybe not. I don't know.
What do you think, Tapewaare? What do you think of this new BC game?
I mean, I think next have proven that he's a good IGL. So as long as he is like motivated and he is ready for IGLing again, I think it can be really good. Like as we have heard before, and like you mentioned, is that Nexa said he don't want to be IGL, and he tried to pick up the anchor role, and he like tried to play those instead. But maybe now he figured out that okay, it was not for me, and he's like he wants to get back to the IGL role because it's like a very, I mean, sometimes you maybe have to have a break from something to see the clear vision of how you should have it, you know. So what my conclusion is that maybe he had a bit of a break off from IGL, and now he's coming back with new energy, and he's refreshed and ready to come back to the IGL role. And to mention Cypher, like what you said about the Blast major, I totally agree that he is not a bad pickup for any tier 2 team, and that he is like very sharp on the aim, and he can like out aim anyone in tier 2.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to just touch on this new wildcard academy team. One of the players is Swedish, Jackinho Wonder. He used to play on the Godsent Academy team, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What
Yeah,
what's
it's
he like?
I don't really know what it's like inside the team because I never played with him in a team. What I understood is that he's a pretty quiet guy who's like playing his lurker positions, anchor positions. He's not taking that much space. But what I've seen from him, he has a good mindset. He wants to work hard and improve. And he has really good skill. And I think it's an interesting player because most players that are coming up are not like an anchor player or like a person who's not taking a lot of space. I mean, most players that are up and coming, they want to be uppers, star riflers, be in the middle of the map, move around a lot, play their own game. So I think it's interesting that we have some talented player from Sweden that's like playing some anchor positions and lurk positions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he's up against like with Friend, who I think stood in a couple of events with Wildcard. Polish Orper, I think he's been around for a little while. Tagged, he played on Sampi most recently, being the in-game leader there, and then TMKJ, who was on Rhino when we were talking about them in the RMR closed qualies last year, and then S Zen, a Danish rifler. I actually don't know anything about him. He's the one player that I don't know. On this academy team. But it's nice to see that Wildcard, obviously with North American backing, played basically in the tier 1 environment only now, have come to Europe, and we've got like some tier 2 younger roots to follow.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I mean, it's always nice when you have organizations picking up academy teams, even though the system is looking like it is today. I mean, it's always nice just like have. I think in general, like there are a lot of talented people in CS, and a lot of people who just need a home to work on their craft. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
one of the big announcements, Ryan, that I saw yesterday was Johnny Speeds announcing that they've now got investors. So rather than basically being an unorged name looking for a home, they are basically going to be the home. They're going to be an organization moving forward. The one question I have, because they didn't announce their fifth, is who's their fifth going to be? Jackinho, even if you know. I think it's quite obvious, maybe to me, that Maxter is probably one of the best options, considering he's literally become a free agent as of a handful of days ago. And maybe that's, Ryan, why they're waiting to announce the fifth. They want to make it like a big thing, because they were playing with, what is it, Male09, which is the young, up-and-coming 15-year-old kid. I actually really hoped that he had a chance to keep playing there, because he played that Subway League and was like the highest rated player in the entire tournament. So I'm sure we'll keep an eye on him for the next couple of years or so to see when that opportunity to a higher end team. I mean, he's only 15, so you got to give him a little bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 15. Then maybe if they're not picking him up, maybe it's because like school or something like this.
Sure.
Practice full time. Could be a possibility. I don't actually know who their fifth is. But I'm glad for them. I mean, they have been grinding for a long time, and there's been rumors like talking to some organizations. Are they gonna find a home? Are they gonna split? Spook going to OG. Now Hampus went to Metisport, and it's like always struggling, even though they had had such a good run. But yeah, I'm happy they finally managed to find a home.
Well, if you don't know, what do you reckon their best options are for a fifth?
Yeah, I mean they would need someone to replace Spook. Although they did get Sepik now, I think he also plays some of those positions. So I don't know. They have a lot of options. I don't know how much money they got by the investors. I don't know if if they're able to buy someone out or if it has to be a free agent or I don't know. I think like you said, like Maxter is good. Um, to replace Spook, I would say Joker from Nip is good, but it's like yeah, you don't know how it's looking with like the
Yeah.
contract situation and what options players have also. So
Okay, well, I think the last one, Ryan, and I want to start with you first. The 3D Max rumor that seems pretty legit is Jocko getting kicked for body to come in. This is a 3D Max side that have looked really good for the last 12 months or so. I think they've definitely classified themselves as a top tier 2 team and maybe tier 1.5 now with some of the lands that they've been going to. They won Sky Esports, they've been at Cato, they're at Pro Leagues. As far as I'm aware, Body's not coming into IGL. Body is only coming in to be a rifler and keeping Maka on that open in-game leadership.
Look, I think for me, original reaction was like, this sucks, because 3D Max, obviously, as you say, have been hard grinders. I mean, they've been core 4 since 2023. Obviously, Gravity was added on, what, it would have been April of 2024, I want to say, somewhere around
So
there.
nearly a year.
Like, start of 2024. And so this is always going to hurt when you see someone getting kicked and bringing someone else in. But what I will say is, I think for me, my honest opinion at least, is you look at their results, you know, again, in Kato, even in Shanghai, Thunderpick as well. Like, I don't want to say they lack experience, but I think the lack of having lots of experienced players, right? Like, you usually see a blend of like very big veterans of the game that have been around the circuit for a little while, maybe gamble on some younger guns as well, like especially in tier 2. And you look at sort of some of these players. I mean, I know they've been around the circuit for a while, Josh, and I'm not saying
Sure.
that this is a replacement for an inexperienced player for an experienced player, but you think Body has been everywhere around the world. You know, he's been he's I would argue he's a decent pickup for anyone. And I think, as you say, despite not being someone that is going to be moving over to take over Macca's in-game leading, there's nothing wrong with having a second voice in the team, and Body has plenty of experience. He knows what he's doing within the game of Counter-Strike, and it's like, for me, if you need an extra voice, Body is your best call. If you need someone that can sort of be like, I've been in this position before, I know exactly what's going on, it's going to be Body. And especially if you want to stick to full French, I think his time at Fnatic, I think a lot of people overlooked how good he was within Fnatic, and even Into the Breach, when he had that quick stint at ITB with the changes. Yeah, and I thought, honestly, if they can keep Body on, this team could be spectacular. I was very much on the Body train when he was standing in at ITB. So I can't say it's a bad move. I don't think it's one that anyone likes to hear, and is quite a shocking rumor, and you know, sort of bit of speculation to have. But if it does happen, I can't say I won't hate it. I think it's a pretty decent addition.
What do you think, Tapewaare?
Yeah. So when I first saw the roster move, or like the leak, I was like thinking the same, like you, and I was like, okay, now they're gonna fuck up because they're gonna make a roster move and things is kind of working. Like they are in the top, like of tier 2/tier 1 bottom, you know, like they are doing good. They are pretty consistent, I would say, at their tier. But as like you mentioned now, it's like you have Body, he have more experience, and if they like need a second voice in the team, they could really have a good use for Body, because he was also, if I'm not mistaken, he was IGLing in Fnatic, so he would like have the strong second voice in the team. And also, if you like look on the paper, if you had to like choose from Body or from this other guy, then it would have been like Body you should choose over Jocko, you know. But like the only mistake they can do is that they are now changing and they make it not work, you know. Then you know they have done something stupid, but I don't think it will happen. But it's always like, you never know if it's gonna fit 100% before you have tried.
Jackinho, any thoughts?
I mean, I guess maybe it's something like that. I've been in a similar situation with Up and IGL. Your performance is usually taking a lot of hits. So maybe if you feel like you want to help the opera a bit more, you can bring in a guy who has experience communicating a lot and taking initiative. So And like you mentioned before, like before Fnatic, Body was also like in a really good shape. He's a really solid player. So maybe it was a mix of everything where they're like thinking, okay, this is a guy that we know he's a really good player. He's had a tough time in Fnatic, probably hungry to prove himself, and at the same time we can kind of help Maka maybe get into his best shape or get more help on the server with the calling. Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking love this change, honestly, Ryan. And do you know what it really reminds me of is what Eternal Fire's just done recently, where they've done extremely well. They've been consistent at the top end of tier 2, but they realize that they're just missing that next piece. And I think benching Calix and bringing in Jota from Sangul is elevated them to what they can do, and they've proved that being able to make the playoffs of Kato. And I look at 3D Max and. Got to be honest with the team, they've probably been one of the best names in tier 2 for the last few years. But have they made a major? Have they been able to make playoffs? Have they been able on the LAN environment to prove that they can push? Not really. Like very often they go out in group stages and they go out early. So I think now they can kind of show that they can do a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think Body getting off of the in-game leadership, he hits hard. I think he's got really good X factor. He's great in late round situations. He's always been a high fragging IGL. And I just think for Jocko, he was an average player. So it's a definite upgrade. You got to remember as well, Body played with this system very early on. He was the one that started Double Pony. I know there's been a lot of changes since then. It was sort of like the Body and Afro duo for a very long time. But I think this move only improves 3D Max, and I think it sets them up to have a really successful 2025 if they can work out the roles and work out sort of the leadership between the two. I'm excited.
Yeah.
This is very early on that we've seen a move. At the beginning of February, we go, shit, okay, Tunnel Fire's coming here to cook. 3D Max is coming here to cook. They're realizing that what is necessary to basically be a tier 1 squad, or at least be in that conversation to be a tier 1 team.
Definitely. No, I agree. I think, sort of to summarize everyone's points, I'm in the similar boat where it's like this could be a big fuck up if it all goes wrong, but
Sure.
the likelihood of that is next to nothing, and all it's going to do is bring more positives to the team. So I'm very excited to see how they do. And as you say, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Eternal Fire right now, especially like top end of tier 2, bottom end of tier 1, even your Gamer Legions, right? Like we thought, oh, they're a team that obviously just did fairly okay at the major with, Volt and Flammus. They lose 2 players, they bring Rez in, and it's like, holy shit, that's a big upgrade, fair enough. And then they go on and they perform very, very well for their inaugural event at Kato, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of teams are going to try and look at doing the same thing, and if 3D Max are going to pull the trigger here, then yeah, pretty solid, I've got to say.
I think the unfortunate thing for Jocko is that he might kind of be done if this does happen, because I know his English isn't great. What other French teams are there? You go and play with fucking Jax on Gen 1, or you play on an international team. I think it could actually be quite difficult for Jocko to find a home, because that's the problem. And I'm sure Tapewaare, it being in a small region of Norway or Norwegian CS, if you're on the top team from the local scene, like you were with Apex Rebels, and you get kicked or you leave the team, where do you go? I think it could be quite difficult for Jocko to go and find a home.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna get into it's the same what happened with UK scene that happened kind of with Norway now, and I feel it's like a collapse in pretty every nation almost. Before it was very normal to have same nationality on all players. Like now you see more and more EU teams or different nations. And the Norwegian scene is totally dead now. We had Good Game League on, and we also had Tela League on before that. It was a tournament where you had LAN for the 2 quarterfinals, and then semifinal, then final was on the stage. And now everything have kind of collapsed, just got worse. They run out of money, and they don't get any support from the government or anything. So they're getting out of money. So it's kind of a big issue, in Norwegian CS, in any national CS. I think we need to have more funding from the government and more support around esport, like any other sport. And just 1 week ago or something, 2 weeks ago, Norwegian esport got into the same as normal sports in Norway. So finally, something is happening around esport, and I hope it will keep evolving. And same like Denmark, you could have seen the government, they have been giving out funds or money to
Yeah.
Australis to like help them like get on these things, have tournaments and have LANs and everything. And I think that's what needs to be done. Like support it like it's another, like any other sport, you know. We need those supporting around it.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, like using a real life experience to that, Ryan. I play a lot of cricket in England, and one thing that happened recently was that the club that I played for, we had some like flood damage to the ground, and we just spoke to the ECB, which is the English Cricket Board, and basically asked for a grant. We were like, look, we don't have the financial funds for it, and they just gave us £40,000. Like that does happen in traditional sports, in cricket, in rugby, in football. Obviously, it's a little bit more different because it's a big community aspect of the amount of actual people there are. But you do have these governmental bodies that you just reach out to and say, we need support for the community. We need a new stand. We need a new pitch. We need a new whatever. And it just comes. And I don't know how many more years until we see that in esports, if we do at all. I would imagine that Scandinavia might be ahead of it than the UK. But I don't know. It's something that everyone would love in our industry. That's for sure.
Yeah, because the thing is also like with esports, like if you're in a situation like that, like I've been in a similar situation, it's like how's your life looking around it, what expectations do you have? Like if you're lucky, then maybe you manage to make enough money that you can spend some time to rebuild yourself again. But let's say you can't do that, okay, then what's your options? You're never gonna, if you're expecting to go on another top 30 team, then it's so many like limited spots, like you're most likely not gonna do that. But at the same time, you have all this experience from being in a top tier 2 team for a long time. I mean, this experience could really help any other team. But will you be able to find like the organization or the team to continue working towards that or not? You know, and that's usually what decides if some people can keep going or not.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all the changes, right? I don't think there's any more, unless we get
Yeah.
surprised by something.
Yeah, maybe. It is time for my favourite part of the show, Josh. It is the Tier 2 Dream Team time. So we asked Jackinho and Tapewaare to make their Tier 2 Dream Team. Gents, the rules are pretty simple. You can pick yourself, you can pick one teammate, but you cannot have anything more than one teammate. And obviously, it's a bit of a battle between you both. We're going to start with Jackinho. You'll pick one player, then it will pass to Tapewaare. You'll pick another. You can't pick the same player. So if one of you want to take, Kaisuke, the other player can't, for example. And then we go back and forth until both teams have 5. And then our lovely judge, Josh, will decide who has the better team.
Okay. So what, Sindri, you gonna pick yourself or no?
No.
You're not gonna pick yourself.
No, I'm not gonna pick myself.
Okay, then I will pick myself.
First
So
player
I will.
yourself.
No, I'm not gonna pick myself as the first player.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick my first player is gonna be Isaac from Metisport.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. If I can spell. There we go. Yeah, fair enough. Good start. Tapewaare, who are you choosing as your first?
As my first, I would like to choose NPL from Bait. Or
NPL
how?
from Bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Is it-
he's probably been one of the most selected players for the better part of the last 6 months or so.
Yeah. What is like the rule for how far down they can go on the ranking?
We judge whether, so it's basically just any tier 2 player, and if you got a player that's maybe like tier 1 to tier 2, we'll just basically make judgment on whether we think they're tier 1 or not.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so let me think. Yeah, I'll pick Kiyosuke then. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's gonna be my
Keisuke,
star
just get
rifler.
him in, yeah.
He's gonna be my star rifler.
All right. There we go.
Tapeware's having a proper think here.
Yeah, I'm thinking of it here. Okay, so I would put Kvem
Yeah,
on the star rifle.
just joined up with the Passion UA boys.
Yeah.
Jackinho, who do you choose next?
Someone's got an in-game lead at the moment. Who's
Yeah, no,
looking for
but
a caller?
okay, so to make it a bit, I mean, I'm just gonna think because this Tapewaare isn't gonna pick himself, so I'm just gonna I'm just gonna build my dream team here. So I would put Tapewaare as my IGL here.
Oh, how nice is that?
There we go. Tapewaare, who are you picking next?
Okay, so next one I would choose would be Santer from Namiga.
Do you know what? We don't get a lot of Omega players on here being selected for some reason. Not sure why. Yeah. Great small sight anchor, great
Yeah.
deegul.
Yeah,
Great
very
with
solid
shit
anchor.
weapons, actually. Every time I cast Xanta, I feel like just on an eco when he's got a deagle or a MP9, he's just winning rounds for his team.
Yeah.
Okay, let me think here. Because I have my anchor, I have my star rifler, I have my IGL. So I need my opera, and then I need my. Depends if I'm gonna put tape on the rotation positions or anchor position. Okay, so would you count would you count heroic as a tier 1 or tier 2 team right now?
Ooh. I'd probably still say that because it is just a core from heroic from Sangul that's just come over. I wouldn't say they're
Yeah.
tier 1 yet, are they? Right? Like
Nah,
they've
I think,
only been
yeah.
together too soon.
Okay, so then I would put Tenir as my second star rifle.
Yeah.
Makes sense. He's been pretty
He got
damn
picked
good,
last show,
Josh.
didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Okay, the next one I would like to add is Jackinho on MVP.
Okay. Opa.
Opa.
Now we're gonna see. Okay, it's gonna be interesting teams here.
I thought he was going full CIS for a moment, and then
Yeah,
you got a Swedish
that's
Opera
true.
in there, didn't you?
Yeah, and then I said I would pick myself, so I'll pick myself now for
Oh,
for
you
the opera
can't.
position.
You can't.
Well, you said you can't.
Ah, no,
I thought
Tapeware's
you said
taking
I
you, mate.
Oh yeah, you picked me.
Yeah,
Okay, but then I have a good pick. I'm gonna pick Jumbo from Passion UA.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
okay. So you got Passion UA players on both teams.
Yeah, I think they're really insane actually.
Fair enough. And who's your last Tapewaare?
My last one, it have to be. Can you scroll up a bit? Like I miss
Yep.
a anchor player, I think. Yeah. So I would need a second anchor player on this. The most solid anchor here would probably be. I mean, he's too high ranked now, probably. Yeah. It's a bit
What are
rough
you
one.
thinking of? You say you're thinking of, and they can decide.
I mean, I was thinking of Heavy God, but now he's in G2, so it's like
Yeah.
way too high.
No,
But
Yeah.
Oh, that's you. That's you.
yeah, but like if it was before, I would have chosen him easily.
Okay.
But I mean, a good anchor. I mean, on the like right now they probably have like Mattis is probably playing some he's playing second star. So okay, I will go for a bit wild one here. I will go for Saifu on Spirit Academy.
Oh yeah.
How do you spell?
Yeah,
I think it's SYPH0. I think
yeah,
it is.
exactly. Yeah,
Ah, yes. Okay.
yeah, this guy. Yeah,
Okay. A first
he's
on
putting
tier
up
2 for him.
a great. He's like 1 rating, I think, around there, and he's like hard anchor. So he's putting up a great performance from that.
I actually feel bad for all of Kiyosuke's teammates because no one just gets spoken about at all on Twitter or
Yeah.
just on the broadcast. We're all like, "Oh, Kiyosuke," and it's just like, "Yeah, there is other 4 players on the team, mate. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just one guy." Which team is better though?
That is the question, Josh.
I kind of do like the MPL and Kavem and Xanta trio. I do like that. But then Jackinho's on a team with 4 CIS players. you
Yeah,
know,
and also MPL is kind of like he's not like a anchor IGL is just running around sacrificing himself, you know. So that means I would have to be a lot more of a supportive opera, and I'm not having so much impact in that team.
So I feel like Jackinho's going to get pissed off because they're going to go for dinner and he's going to sit on one side of the room and then the other 4 are going to sit on the other. So I don't, even Isaac.
I mean, if you look at my team, yeah, I have the perfect balance. Like I have my 2-star riflers who's like dragging really hard. I have a really good IGL, and then I have Isaac and Tape who's like super good support players. So my stars will shine, and then my support players will help them be the best versions of themselves.
And then
Yeah.
you also pick the best tour T sniper, tier 2.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's it. I'm being sold on both. I reckon that we just make it 50-50 today, Ryan. I think.
Yeah, are you?
I
Are
don't
you?
think there's a winner. I
You
don't
think this is a draw?
This is a CCT demon team, both of them. I reckon
Yeah.
get them in, close qualifiers, main Swiss. They're making top 8s, top 4s. They're challenging the Paravisions of the world.
There you go. For the
Exactly.
first time ever, Josh has declared a draw. Thank you very much, gents, for joining us. Anything you wanna say before we close up here?
No, just thank you for having us. It was fun. Shout out Copenhagen Wolves. It's a sick organization, and yeah, we're gonna hopefully produce some results. So keep your eyes out.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you for having us, and it was a really pleasure to come here, and pleasure and come here and talk with you guys. It was really fun. So hopefully we can talk some more in the future.
There you go. Maybe we get a 6 month, 1 year reunion, Josh, and we can discuss it all over again.
Yeah.
Let's
That
do
would
it.
be fun.
Anyway, thank you very much, gents, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Until next time, have a good one. Bye bye.